Hello, I am Graveltan, and welcome to another bite-sized edition of Post-Defeat. And very much similar to our previous bite-sized morsel, this one is also animated. You would think that animation would go hand in hand with superhero movies, and yet we've only seen a handful of these examples, and therefore only a handful of animated supervillains. Might I stress that I'm talking about big screen supervillains, none of the direct-to-DVD bullshit, or meant to be direct-to-DVD and then had a limited release. Wait a minute, I don't recognize that metrosexual caveman. Which animated superhero is he the villain of? Okay. That's fine, that's cool, that's cool. Anyway, the very first example on the big screen was the Phantasm, breaking the barriers of what you could do with female supervillains. They don't have to always be sexualized, they can be presented as unisex. But what about a special type of villain you could only do in animation? Now, here is a good example. This was a villain that was previously depicted as comedic and bumbling. But now that he was on the big screen, he was fully fleshed out without being reimagined. Instead, he was shown for the true horrifying beast he really was. It was just too bad that when he went back to TV, he digressed back into the bumbling, stupid villain before. And then even more so a decade later. But then we finally got it, the quintessential supervillain of cartoondom. This was a perfect balance of how frightening villains could be, but at the same time deviously comedic, while still being taken seriously. But given the studio's track list on sequels, maybe it's best that we keep this villain dead and not bring him back just to become a disappointment. Then we had a new villain for a previously established group. In this case, it was the Teenage Mutant Turtles, who have a large, rich rogues gallery that everyone was looking forward to being eventually adapted. So of course no one gave a fuck about new villains being pulled out of random asses. They wanted the classic ones. So that's why they were ignored. And the same can be said for that studio's next project regarding Astro Boy. But you know what? We struck gold. We got another lovable supervillain. But the problem with him was that he was almost too lovable, to the point where he became the hero of his movie. Oh no! Oh, what a fall from grace! But we still needed a villain for the end of the movie, and that's when we got Discount Syndrome. Seriously, he's exactly like Syndrome in every way. The crazy red hair, the fact that he started out as an archetype of superhero sidekicks only to be rejected and get revenge for that. But the difference is that he is an annoying type of dude bro, and Syndrome was the lovable type of dude bro. So going back to Disney, we have this villain who brought back all the darkness that we left behind. But it replaced all of the personality and charisma. Just absolutely nothing. He might as well be the villain of a serious, straightforward action drama movie. And so that brings us to recent times, where I decided to start giving a fuck about animation. If this one is comedic and meta, then the next superhero animation should be the exact opposite, dark and serious. Oh, wait a minute, that's probably being saved for next year, when Sabretooth gets his redemption and is transformed from a live-action mutant into an animated Spider-Man villain. But which one? Well, all we know for now is that he's going up against the less pasty Spider-Man. So I guess that means we are in for another meta-villain. Not again. Hey, what do you have against funny villains that are meta? What the fuck? Oh my god! I'm tripping balls! I knew there was something bad in those drugs. I need a better dealer than Shadow King. I assure you I am 100% real and actually in front of you. Perhaps the reason why you are in utter disbelief is because you do not compute with meta-comedy, especially after that spew. It's not that I don't like it, it's just that whenever meta-comedy or slapstick comedy or raunchy potty humor comedy is used in one of these supervillain fights, it kinda makes me redundant. I had the same exact problem earlier this year, and now I'm having it again! I mean, what the fuck am I supposed to do with a talking toilet? I can't make fun of that, when in itself is already a joke. You think I am a joke? Gee, thanks for the support. I might as well go hang myself. Oh God, no, don't do that. No, I don't mean it that way. I don't mean that you are a joke in that kind of sense. I mean that it's just that it's hard to make fun of something that already makes fun of itself, you know. I can't supply the comedy. The comedy is already there. You're a supervillain that people would have to open the mouth of and put their ass on and then shit into you. I mean it already writes itself, you know? And you don't mind the raunchy comedy? Hell, I come up with that kind of shit all the time, so why would I be pissed when other people use it? It's just that I can't add dirty comedy to this because it's already there. You've got people laughing about your anus, you've got turtles that have to look at bare penises in the shower, you've got you. Well, thank you, but I do not deserve all of the credit for being the villain of this altercation. That honor goes to Professor Poopy Pants. You see, that right there is what I'm talking about. You know, I don't have to make fun of that. It's already there. You know, I don't need to be here. Just like with the Legos and the Deadpools, you know, I don't need to be here. I don't need to make fun of Poopy Pants. I mean, if there was a serious villain with a serious name, and then I just called them Poopy Pants, then that would be funny, you know, that would be hilarious. But the fact that he's already named Poopy Pants, you know, there's no point. There's no point. I see. So you have no interest in this interview. I guess I'll go back to my noose. No, don't. There can still be comedy here. There can still be plenty of comedy. In fact, now that I think of it, actually, usually, this would be the point where I'm talking about this all seriousness and talking about the villains in a serious fashion. And the fact that I get to say Poopy Pants as if it needs to be serious, as if I'm talking about a legitimate person, that in itself is funny. The fact that I have to take this seriously. And that right there is where the comedy is. The fact that I am critiquing and deconstructing something that dared to call itself Poopy Pants is a fucking comedy miracle. So, you do appreciate where I'm coming from, then? Yes, I am. You honestly think I have what it takes to be the main villain of a story, and not just a device used by the villain? What? You think that just because you're a robot, that means you're held back? No, that never stopped Ultron from being the main villain. And unlike him, you should be funny. I see. Now that I think of it, I do believe that is my destiny to fulfill in the books. Wait a minute, you're based off of a book series? Well, they're not exactly novels, they're more like scholastics for elementary kids, and they've got pictures in them. Well, I've got to admire elementary schools that would allow this type of humor into their libraries. Not without controversy, of course. Lots and lots of disapproval from angry parents and teachers. Well, that's bullshit. I'm mad because you're exposing dirty, naughty comedy to my kids. Well, guess what? They already think that way. If you forbid them from that type of comedy, then you're only gonna make them want it more, and get even more dirty and perverted in the mind. So why not embrace that comedy? To a degree, of course, not too much, just the right amount of dirty. That way, they get their fix, and when they realize that it's okay to be a little raunchy at times, they won't fully rebel and be over raunchy. So, you think that this type of comedy should be commended? Sure, it's not hurting anybody. I mean, as long as you don't hold back. If you're going to be a potty humor extravaganza that doesn't take itself too seriously, then do that all the way. Don't try to hold back on it. Embrace what you are. Embrace that this is crude and never takes itself seriously. But most adults prefer if their kids' movies have something that the child can take away. Not just be completely mindless. No, I see that. But if you try to inject too much of a lesson into the story, then it'll feel forced. And that's when you start holding back from what you truly are. Especially in this case, when it's absurd comedy. So would that mean that my superhero event would need to avoid that? Not necessarily. You just have to be more subtle with it. The emotional moments and morals have to happen naturally. So tell me, who was your superhero you were pitted against? His name was Captain Underpants. Yes, I see, alright, already, in the name alone, already hitting hard with that potty humor, I see. Not as much as Professor Poopy Pants. So Captain Underpants, was there anything sad about him? Well, he was originally a elementary school principal who was hypnotized by these two delinquent boys. Oh, he was hypnotized. That sounds like the plot of some screwball child's comedy. I mean, by the sound of it, he probably had it coming. He was one of those stern, hard-ass principals, right? Yes, he was very much a hard ass. See, I don't see any tragedy in that. However, this was only what the children believed. They also thought that he was nothing more than a stuck-up, cranky man who was angry at everybody for no reason. Little did they know he had a reason. They instead realized the sad, unfortunate, depressing truth that he is just a lonely man with no friends, no family, no companionship, nothing. That's it then, huh? That was the tragedy. That they thought this was an angry, mean man who deserved to be hypnotized into becoming a half-naked buffoon crime fighter. But actually, he didn't. He was just that way because he was miserable. And so the kids were just making his life even worse. And they probably didn't spend too much time on that, right? No, it never felt like they were stopping everything dead in its tracks to explain this to you. It was very brief and was as long as it needed to be to get the point out there. So, was this resolved in any way? Well, they attempted to undo the hypnotism that was bestowed upon him, and also they hooked him up with Christian Schau. Oh, the lady from Last Man on Earth. Oh, that's actually a catch. But there was a price that had to be paid. They thought that they could solve the problem by getting rid of the hypnotism, but it turns out it was still there. And even though that the superhero gets to continue to exist, it will still be a heavy burden to bear for the boys, because now they have to deal with keeping this secret all the time, and it can never be undone. And was that unspoken? Yes, it's all implied. That's what I'm talking about! Subtlety! Yes, this is awesome! It's just a shame that people won't appreciate the fact that you're fully embracing this potty humor while at the same time giving the parents what they want. Yes, there are a lot of people out there who only see this as face value and are only judging this by the fact that it has potty humor. They do not care enough to look beyond that. They refuse to acknowledge this type of humor as funny. They only want to be negative about it and think it's not worth their time. How awesome would it be if Captain Underpants actually lampooned that and actually offered a mirror to those haters, showed them how pretentious and stuck up they're being? Actually, that's exactly what Captain Underpants did. Really? He did that? Yes, Professor Poopy Pants was not the only villain of this movie. The secondary villain was the one who created me, my creator, Melvin Sneedly. Oh, that's right, that Dexter wannabe. He's not a serial killer. No, not that Dexter. I'm talking about the laboratory Dexter. That Dexter. I mean, come on, look, they even look fucking the same and have the same exact quirk, that they invent stuff. But this is not his only quirk. He has no sense of humor. Holy shit! Yes! Yes! This is what I'm talking about! He's a jab towards all of the haters of this movie who judged it before it even came out! Exactly. The type of people whose mentality is that if it's not funny to them, then it's not funny at all, and isn't worth anybody's time. But it is worth people's time. The people who do have this type of sense of humor, as long as it's not mean-spirited and is appropriate for its intended age. Yeah, I mean, witty humor is all cool and stuff, and it's always much appreciated, but you know, sometimes it is nice to just laugh at the ridiculously stupid humor, you know, just the nonsensical humor that takes hardly any effort to come up with, and you know, sometimes it is nice to just relax a little bit. You can still have the more witty humor, but, you know, sometimes it is good to appreciate the more absurd stuff. It means you're not taking things too seriously. And sometimes the fact that it is offensive to other people is what makes it funny. Sometimes. And this is one of those times. Yes, that's why Melvin was so important. So much so that he was the MacGuffin used by Professor Poopy Pants to rid the world of all sense of comedy. My God, he wanted to turn everyone into the people who doubted this movie. Man, this is meta. Holy fuck! And so I don't have to rely on meta humor, I just have to rely on my ability to dissect all of this. Thank you, Talking Toilet. Thank you for reminding me of this. It's Turbo Toilet to you. Turbo Toilet 2000. So I imagine that the reason why Poopy Pants wanted to get rid of everyone's sense of humor was so they would stop laughing at his name. Exactly. He was offended by it. And the fact that he was offended by people laughing at his name is in itself another example of this humor. Humor of people being offended. Yes, and the ridiculousness of the fact that he just realized his name is laughable is also absurd and bizarre. And that's where more of the comedy comes from. The absurdity of this. The fact that apparently there's a foreign name that happens to sound like excrement and trousers, and that he would never once thought of just changing his fucking name, just being like, oh, I have to make people stop laughing at my name, instead of just fucking changing it, dude! So, you no longer feel sad that you couldn't inject as much comedy as you wanted. Now that I think of it, I think the biggest, greatest joke of all that I could ever possibly make about this movie is the fact that there has just been a huge milestone in the superhero genre, a huge turning point in this genre, and yet while this is all going on, I decided to talk about Captain Underpants instead. And that is the biggest joke of all I could possibly make about Captain Underpants. I'm talking about that instead of you-know-who. Aren't you going to piss a lot of people off? I'm going to talk about you-know-who regardless. That's being saved for next week. But the fact that I don't give a shit is in matching with the whole spirit of Captain Underpants. The fact that he doesn't give a shit that people would look down on him for that. Just like how I give no fuck that I decided to do this first. My God, you have balls, and I have balls. And so does the company that made you. Because they gave no fucks when they decided to choose the date for this movie. They knew there was no way in hell this would make more money than you-know-who, but they decided to do it anyway. Because they also give no fucks. And you know what? Kudos for them. Kudos to everyone not giving a fuck. And if you don't give a fuck about Captain Underpants, then kudos to you. Because if Captain Underpants doesn't give a fuck about you, then who gives a fuck if you don't give a fuck about Captain Underpants? Although it would have been nice to be number one and ensure of a sequel. Hey man, you've got a bunch of books. I'm sure you can adapt the other ones. Well, this wasn't an adaptation of just one book. I am not in the first book, nor is Professor Poopy Pants. He is in book 4, while I am in book 3. And the movie's basic plot was from book 1. Ooh, So they actually did take themselves a little bit seriously, not just to put in the morals and the emotional moments, but also to use the same techniques as the big superhero titans. They also have that same strategy of pulling this and that from different stories of the original series that they're adapting, combining it all into one cohesive piece, just like how you guys did it. We might be lampooning the superhero genre, but we still want to honor it. Even if it means centering the whole premise around a dated joke. Dated? What is dated about the overall joke? You know, superheroes wearing underpants. None of the modern superheroes do that anymore. Superman doesn't have underpants anymore. Batman doesn't have underpants anymore. None of them. They all got rid of those. But once again, you give no fucks. You're gonna emphasize on those undie pants anyway, even if it is a thing of the past. Exactly. We don't give any fucks. Just like how we don't give a fuck about how I clearly died at the end of the movie. Oh, that's right, I forgot. You guys are still supervillains, which means you had to be defeated. So what exactly happened to all of you? Well, Poopy Pants was shrunken to a very, very small size. Oh no! It's bad enough that his first name sounds like diarrhea, and his last name is a synonym of that, but now his penis is microscopic? Well, all of him is microscopic. What about Melvin? What happened to him? Oh, he got off real easy. He wasn't really much of a villain anyway. He was just a douchebag who was full of himself. And besides, he eventually becomes an ally in the books, which is why he got a slap on the wrist, and instead had a toilet paper rain down on top of him. Although it was a giant roll of toilet paper, and we never saw him after that. Oh shit! That could imply that he got killed by that he could be dead right now. Holy shit! But wait a minute, you said that you died too! I have to confess to you something, Gravoton. I am not the original Turbo Toilet. I am merely a descendant of Turbo Toilet. I am a carrier of his legacy, because when the essence poured out of him, it infected all of these regular-sized toilets, and so they manifested into a new race of turbo toilets carrying his legacy onward, and I am one of those warriors. So there can be a sequel with you and all of your toilet brothers and sisters. Although our All-Father did fuck up because he accidentally gave Captain Underpants his superpowers. That was kind of a fuck up on his part. Hey man, it's another one of those reciprocal balances of destiny. The hero creates the villain creates the hero. It's the circle of life. It's the circle of life. I just hope that we are still able to use all those other supervillains, considering that we kind of wasted it in the credits and showed all of them. Well, you know, that's just a teaser of what's potentially to come. After all, you guys aren't in the DreamWorks pipeline. You were outsourced, so you can be outsourced again. Thank you, Gravoton. Thank you for reintroducing me to my purpose in life. To be the source of comedy in a world where everything is serious and dark. Well, mostly serious and dark. Those MCU movies do kind of get all jokey and over-the-top slapsticky sometimes. Aw, damn it! That means I am less needed! No, you're still needed, because what's unique about you is that you go all the way with that slapstick humor, as opposed to them, where they just half-ass it. Yes, half-ass it, while I am full ass! Speaking of asses, I have to go back to my day job now. Oh shit, I forgot. Your job is to have people shitting you. I'm sorry, Turbo Toilet. I'm sorry. No, do not worry about me, Franklin. It is the darkness that makes the comedy more appreciated. Never forget that, Turbo Toilet. Never forget. And all of you never forget either about the pathos of Turbo Toilet, especially when I'll see you next time on Post Defeat Bite-Sized Edition. I guess it's safe to say I'm just doing this for the animated ones. I'll probably do other types of supervillains too. You know, the ones that I don't want to spend too much time for. Wait, why would you not spend too much time for me? No, I don't mean that way. Oh, God! Nah, I'm just kidding with you. But seriously, though, you need to pay for making that statement. Swirly time, swirly time, I'll see you later. Swirly time. It's actually kind of relaxing. Very therapeutic. Very therapeutic. Oh, yes. Oh, this is nice. Oh, yes. Oh, it's getting down in the pores. Oh, it's exfoliating my skin.